Ladies and gentlemen, this is Miss Humbert here, and today we're going to be talking about slope-intercept form. So this video is just for slope-intercept form. We're going to actually do the second part of your note sheet as a video in class tomorrow, so please make sure you remember to bring your headphones. That's going to be really important for class tomorrow. So today let's start with just the slope-intercept form. That's all I want to do tonight. So first and foremost, let's take a look at the slope-intercept form equation. That's going to be y is equal to mx plus b. So m represents your slope. We're going to talk a little bit more about slope here in 1 second. B is your y-intercept. So B is where you're going to be crossing the y-axis. So what is the slope? Well, the slope is rise over run. Or you could look at it as change in x over change in y. But most importantly, this guy right here represents the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now this is a formula that you're going to have memorized for this class, so make sure you have that written down on your note sheet. What is the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept is the point where it crosses the y-axis. It's also the y value when x is equal to 0. So if x is equal to 0, that's how we can get our y-intercept. Last but not least, when do we use it? We're going to use it to graph linear equations. So slope-intercept form is used the most for graphing. So we're going to do a little bit of graphing today, but we're going to do even more of it as the notes progress. So let's go ahead and just take a look at a couple examples of slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept. What would I want to do to put this into slope-intercept form? Well, first of all, remember that slope-intercept form is y is equal to mx plus b. So there's no reason to make this more difficult than it has to be. Remember, this is your slope and this is your y-intercept. So all I have to do is plug that in. So m is equal to -2. Y and x will always stay in the problem. So m is -2, and then we have x. And then our b is 2, so then I'm going to add 2. So all I did was I plugged in -2 for m, and I plugged in 2 for b. Let's take a look at number 2. So again, we have y is equal to mx plus b. So I want to plug in 2/3 for m because that's my slope, and I want to plug in -4 for b. So I have y is equal to 4/3 x, and then you could do plus a negative b, or you could write that as 4/3 x minus 4. Either way, those are both acceptable answers. They mean the same thing. Let's take a look at writing equations based off of a graph. Well, first thing we have to do is we have to calculate out our slope and our y-intercept, and then we can just plug it in like we did the previous problem. Well, here's the y-axis. Remember, the y-axis is the one that's up and down. Okay, so the up and down axis is crossing at -2. So because we're crossing at -2, that means our y-intercept is -2. Then I want to calculate up my slope. So I'm going up, and I'm going to go from point to point. And remember, you want to do rise over run. So we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going up 6, and I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going up 6, and then over 4. Well, I can reduce that fraction. Both 6 and 4 are divisible by 2, so that's going to give me 3/2. You always want to write your slope as 3/2. So then I have y is equal to 3/2 x minus 2. 3/2 x. So I plugged in my m, and I plugged in my y-intercept. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at number 4. So for number 4, I want to figure out first where I'm crossing the y-axis. Even though it's not a labeled point, I can see that I'm crossing the y-axis at a +1. Here's my x-axis. I'm going up 1 on the y-axis, so my y-intercept is 1. Now I want to calculate out the slope. Well, this is a point, and this is a point. I don't necessarily have to use the points that they give us. So remember that negative or left means down when you're talking about slope. So I'm going down 1, 2, and right 1, 2, 3 for my slope. So I'm going down 2 and right 3. Now all I have to do is plug that into my slope-intercept form. So here I have y is equal to -2/3. Okay, then I want to put the x with it. Remember, the x is always multiplied by the slope, and then the b is 1. So y is equal to a -2/3 x plus 1. So that right there is your final answer for number 4. So let's take a look at number 5. So for number 5, we're crossing the y-axis at 4. And then my slope is -3. Well, -3 is the same as -3 over 1. So that means from my slope or my y-intercept of 4, I plotted 4 on the y-axis, and then I want to go down 1, 2, 3, and over 1. So here are my 2 points. Now it's a good idea to use a straight edge. I am terrible at drawing straight lines. I will be the first to admit it. You could even use the side of another sheet of paper or so forth. And on the iPad, you even have some options for just connecting straight lines in general. So this right here is the line for number 5. Now let's take a look at number 6. So for number 6, we're crossing the y-axis at -2. So here's the x-axis. I'm going to go down 1, 2 on the y-axis, and I'm going to plot that point. Then my slope is 2. Well, what does that tell me? Well, my slope is 2. That's the same as 2 over 1. Remember, slope is always rise over run. So I'm going up 2 and over 1 and plotting that point. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect those dots. That was actually a pretty good straight line. And that right there is your line graph. So that's all we're going to do on the note video today. Because there were only a couple examples on the front, your Schoology quiz will be different problems. You know how to do them. You have all the materials. Use your note sheet as reference. Tomorrow in class, you're going to have a video of the second part, and you're going to do that in class. So please, please, please make sure you remember to bring headphones. Thanks for listening.